B'Shem Hashem Naseh v'Nasliach. Be'ezat Hashem, today we're going to learn a very interesting piece from Zohar HaKadosh brought in Chok Israel. This Zohar HaKadosh is in Parashat Mesorah. Parashat Mesorah, but is brought in Parashat Shofatim L'Yom Shlishi. So this Zohar HaKadosh is going to talk about purity and Hashem's relationship to us and all the judgments and so forth. Amar Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar says, Ketiv, it says in the Pasuk in Vayikra, V'yizatem et bnei Yisrael mitum otam, that one should warn, one should inform Bnei Israel about their impurity. In other words, Bnei Israel need to be aware of what would cause them to become impure. Betamam et mishkani asher betocham. Right? And especially when they are within the Mishkan, when they come to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the question is, why does it say ve'izartem? Ve'lo ne'emar hamavlaltem or aparashtem kemo b'sha'ar meqomot. Right? So the question is, why doesn't say that those Yehudim that became impure, they should be secluded or they should be separated? They need to be identified, like in other places. In other places we see, if a person becomes tameh, let's say tumat met, right, or sarat, right, needs to leave the machane, needs to go to mikveh, right. So over here there is a level of tum'ah, impurity, but it doesn't say that they should remove themselves. It's just that they need to be aware of their impurity, right. So over here it says umefaresh meramez kan lashon zarut shekelal Israel yihu kehai zar dihu zar mikulehu kemo adam zar she'en lo shayachot im sovavav. That over here is referring to a stranger, right? Zar, right, refers to the those who are strangers. Those who became stranger with whatever they did, they are not so much related to HaKadosh Baruch Hu because they've committed sins that they made themselves to become a stranger. They are not so much connected with Hashem. Velo itchabbar bema delay. And they are not connected, right, with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? In other words, with their sins, they lost their connection. Kachi yu kelal Israel mufrashim mehatum'ah kemo zarim beli shom shayachot. So too a Yehudi needs to distance himself from anything that could cause him to be distanced from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? In other words, if a person does something bad, right, if he does a chet, chet comes from the lashon of cut, that he cuts his roots with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. His connection with Hashem is not as used to be after he committed this sin. So one needs to be careful. V'tach, as says Zohar, come and see. Right? B'sha'ata deista'abin b'nei nasha letata. That when people in this world make themselves tameh, when they make themselves impure with their deeds, mis'avin lohon bekulei, right, is not only they made themselves impure in this world, no, they make themselves impure in the upper world as well. There is a connection, right, with the averot that a person does in this world. Not only he becomes tameh, impure, he damages his relationship with other Yehudim in this world. He damages his relationship and he makes him his face in Olam Haba in a spiritual way as well. Veha itmar, as is explained in another place. Right? Beshata de ruach mesa'ava itvar. When this itar, thank you, when the ruach of tum'ah, right, comes to a person in this world, right, through the sins that he does, itar ruach mesa'ava achara. This makes this ruach, this impure spirit, would impure the ruach corresponding to that individual in the upper worlds, in the spiritual worlds. Ve'ityehiv le reshuta, ve'ityehiv le reshuta lenachta le'alma, and it causes this spiritual spirit that becomes impure in the upper worlds, right, gets permission to come down to this mundane world and take over, and to have more influence against that person. My reshuta, what is the meaning of this concept of reshut, that he gets permission to come and damage and impurify that person? What is the answer? Reshuta de kedusha, that the kedusha, the pure pure powers in the upper worlds, now because they became impure, they can challenge him. The chava nachid umachebe, the hava, right? The hava nachid umachebe, right? That what is going to happen now, because of this yerida, because of this going down in the level of spirituality, now the upper worlds could make him to even be more challenged with the tum'ah, and also with controlling him over. La ishtekach veit telaq eno nimsa bimqomo ela mistalleq ulekan yachor ruach tum'ah laredet lishlot, because now he lost his spiritual place in the upper worlds. That impure power can go in the olam hazeh, in this mundane world, and have shelita and control over. In other words, the upper worlds, the angels, the spiritual powers would not stop impure powers to go and damage him or to challenge him. Okay, then and after this, the ruach tum'ah goes down. Itgaliya dina leqavlehun lechayavaya, and it comes out that there would be judgments, the midah of judgment, right? The midat hadin could go against him because of all these chataim, all these sins that he did. Ve'osif dina, and it could add to his judgments. Right? As we say, mitzvah goreret mitzvah, a mitzvah brings another mitzvah, or chas v'shalom avera goreret avera. Right? A sin could bring another sin. Ad dinei, till so much that the ruach tum'ah, impure power, can come and dominate. Ukeden teren ruchin mishtakechin be'alma, and then it comes out to be that there is two spirits in this world. Chat rucha ledida, de dina, that one ruach is the ruach of judgment of good deeds, right? That comes from kedusha. Vechat rucha dim sa'ava, and another ruach is the ruach of tum'ah, that comes, the impure spirit that comes to the sins of an individual. Amar Rabbi Elazar. Huh?
Imsa'ava means sins?
Yes. Right? V'achad ruach tum'ah shenimshach al yedei hachet. Another spirit that comes through, right, the sins of an individual. Amar Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar explains, Isterichna ha lememar mila deu lifna me'aba. That he says, I need to explain over here, right, something that I learned from my father Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Tachaze, come and see. Hacha yalfinan minega de beta. We learn this concept from Sarat that comes to one's house. Dechad ruach mesa'ava shaira bebeita. That when a person speaks Lashon Hara, or he speaks Moshe Shemra, or other things that would bring Sarat to one's home, this impure spirit comes and influences the house. Right? But it limits to one's house on the outside. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to purify that person. Right? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to help. Right? Hashem doesn't want that house to remain impure. Shadar nega sarat bebeita. So when a person does a sin, right, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, okay, he spoke Lashon Hara, he spoke Moshe Shemra, right? So Hashem sends a sarat, which is a spiritual sickness, right, that comes to the house of this person, and that comes through the midat of deen, right? That is the judgment through purity. Kede letarga da beda. In order that this nega, this sarat should come, right, and eventually help the house to get away from its impurity, to make a person to make teshuvah. A person sees that the house has sarat now, so he examines his deeds, he makes teshuvah. Ve'ahu negala adei mibeita. Right? And this nega would not leave, this disease would not leave this house. Va'afal gaf de ruach mesa'ava istalach mehahu beita. Even if the ruach tum'ah has already left the house, ad dein tesun beita, until the house is broken. In other words, if the sarat doesn't leave one's house, they're supposed to break the house. So what is happening over here? Shehem avanin ve'ayin ve'kola, which refers to the bricks and the beams, that has to do with the house. Keden it kadei atra. And after this, what happens? If the house is broken, no more impurity. So it becomes taher. Right?
Break the whole thing, or just the wall?
The
wall.
Just that wall. My understanding is that wall. They don't break. If it becomes very bad, they break the whole thing. Right? Kahai Yavna. So too, this is how HaKadosh Baruch Hu is teaching us a lesson. He's talking to us, Bnei Adam. Man deista'av ve'it'ar rucha mesa'ava ve'share alui. That a person who became tameh and he wants the impurity to, right, leave him, and for now the impurity has influenced him, right? Kad bayed de Qudsha beruchu de ledaka alma. when HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to help him in this world from his impurity, it ar ruach dina tagifa. So Hashem sends to him this spirit of Kedusha, takes over. And sometimes within this process, he might lose that mundane wall. He might lose the mundane house that he has, lo aleinu, but for his greatest success of achieving purity. וישתכח בעלמה ושיירה עד ההוא רוח מסעבה. And this ruach of Kedusha comes and takes over until that ruach of Tum'ah leaves that individual. Right? So the pure judgment comes, right, and influences him to the extent that he might lose something for the greater gain of getting rid of the impurity. ومقترگه دا بدا ونین خمیم زه بازه. And this one fights with the other one. The ruach of Kedusha fights with the ruach of Tum'ah. Right? عد شعبا ويستلق مع عالم روح طمعا وبكل ذاته روح دينا تغيفا. Until that impure spirit leaves. Now all this is difficult, is taqif, is qashe. La istallaq ma'asrei. And would not this impure spirit would not leave. Ad they not test atar, until that place is broken. Right? Like the house that became it was afflicted with sarat, leprosy. Kavana sha'ifin vegarmin lekola. So too the limbs of a person and the bones and all the powers of a person, right, could be punished because of his deeds. Kedin, like the judgment of that person according to his deeds. It dachei alma veit averu minei ruchin mesa'avin. And this ruach comes and purifies the person, right? Ve'alma ishtechach kedachei. And the whole world eventually would become tahor. Now Zohar HaKadosh is going to end ve'adda tenenan. So this teaches us ata leis ta'ava mis'avin le vadai hava letame meta'in oto. That if a person wants to become impure, HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes that person impure. Vadai akavana lazeh. So this comes to teach us, right? Al yedei hanega nitma adam ubekoach ze mistalek bimenu ruach hatumah ki efshar lo ma'ashemin hashamayim metamein et hadam ba'averot. Right? It's not like you come to say, okay, Hashem made me tameh, lo aleinu. Hashem is the one who is bringing challenges to me. No, it's all because of one's deeds. But even at the time of challenge, Hashem is giving us chesed, is doing us rachamim. Hashem gets that challenge, makes it to the extreme, as if the whole house is sarat. You destroy the house, and then purity comes in. Vaile levarnash kad share aleh ruach mesava veishtechach be be'alma. Oy to a person that the ruach tum'ah finds him in this world, the impure spirit, the vadai linda'a, that really vadai, for sure he deserves it. the Qudsha berichu baye levara le min alma, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself, once this Ruach Tum'ah comes all the way from Olam Haba, right, and influence him. And if he doesn't make Teshuvah, right, hini yistarech leshaber et gufo b'yisurin. This is the punchline. If he makes Teshuvah, good. Lo alenu, if he doesn't make Teshuvah, more difficulties would come. Zakayin inun sadiqaya, the kuleu qadishin. Praiseworthy are the righteous people, that they are all pure. Veishte chachu biqdusha qame malka qadisha, and they find themselves with purity before Hashem. Ki al yedei shemeqaddeshim asmam lemata me'at, that over, because they make themselves pure in this world a little bit, maqdishim otam harbe min hashamayim, so much more in the upper worlds Hashem gives them kedusha ve tahara, elevates them. ושריה עליהו רוח קדישה בהי עלמה ובעלמה דעתי. And not only that, in this world, HaKadosh Baruch Hu would give them purity of Kedusha, right? Opposite of Reshaim. Opposite of Reshaim, that Hashem sends impurity to them, right? To this world, and would influence them in the world to come. May Hashem help us that we always purify ourselves here, and Bezat Hashem, you take one step, HaKadosh Baruch Hu would take many steps for you. Baruch Adonai Leolam, Amen, Amen.